Hey guys, BJ Kissel with SB Nation and Arrowhead Pride with a new series talking about different positional groups for the Kansas City Chiefs, the needs they have, and how those might be addressed this offseason. The first one I'm going to talk about is cornerback. Obviously, besides quarterback, which everybody wants to talk about, and Brandon Albert's situation at left tackle, I think the number 2 cornerback opposite Brandon Flowers is the most important position for the Chiefs, and how they address it this offseason is going to be interesting because you have the draft and free agency. We have young guys in Javier Arenas and Jaleel Brown. I think both those guys played the number 2 cornerback spot last year. I think that both showed flashes, but I don't think either one showed enough that you can count on him being the guy going into training camp. I think that it's still a position that they need to address. And it'll be interesting because you have the draft and free agency as 2 ways to add talent to your team. New Chiefs GM John Dorsey said that he wants to use free agency to supplement what they do in the draft as far as just putting pieces here and there. And I personally have had this conversation with a lot of Chiefs fans, but I personally believe that free agency is the way to go to find that number 2 corner. I think it's too important of a position to risk a second or third round pick and having to have that guy start right away. I think as much as you want a Brandon Flowers, you could also get an Alphonso Smith. So go out and get a guy in free agency. You know how he's done against NFL competition. You'll have an idea of what kind of player he is, at least better than you would for a rookie, especially a second or third round rookie. But let's talk a little bit about some of those free agents that will be available this offseason. My top free agent cornerbacks available: Brent Grimes and Chris Houston. Brent Grimes obviously coming off IR with the Atlanta Falcons with a Achilles injury he actually suffered against the Kansas City Chiefs early last season. Before the injury, Grimes was seen as one of the up-and-comers, a guy that was in line to get a big contract from someone. Obviously, the injury is going to play a part in that now. I think you get great value from him. I'm not sure how much money he can demand on the market because he is coming off an injury. So I think you could get great value with Brent Grimes if he's healthy. And then Chris Houston, when you talk with people up in Detroit, they seem to believe that he's going to be a guy that is a candidate for the franchise tag. So he might not even hit free agency, but he's not coming off an injury. So I think that Houston might get the most money of all the free agent cornerbacks that are going to be available next to whatever happens with Darrelle Revis. But Houston's another guy to keep your eye on. And then other guys that are available are Sheldon Brown and Terence Newman. Obviously, both those guys have been in the league at least 10 years. Wouldn't be more than a 1 or 2 year contract, but according to Pro Football Focus, Newman and Brown are the number 3 and number 4 ranked free agent cornerbacks available based on how they did in 2012. So obviously, those would just be temporary stopgaps, but guys that played well last season could step in right away, play that number 2 spot, and while you see what you have with Arenas and Brown in a new system. And then you also have guys like Darius Butler, Aqib Talib, and Pacman Jones that are also going to be available. Darius Butler, the former top of the second round pick from the New England Patriots, played well for the Indianapolis Colts last season. Then you've got Aqib Talib. Most people around Kansas City are familiar with him, the former first round pick with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, played at the University of Kansas. And then obviously Pacman Jones, and his issues are well documented, as are Talib's, as far as off the field concerns. Obviously those have to be looked into. But Pacman Jones is interesting because according to that same Pro Football Focus article, Jones is the number 1 ranked free agent quarterback this offseason. And even more than that, and that was based on his entire 2012 season, even more than that, there was another article they put out that had the lowest percentage of plays that resulted in first downs or touchdowns. And Jones ranked number 7 overall in the NFL, not just among guys who are free agents. So obviously a guy that you have to look into is off the field concerns, but had a great 2012 season, could step in and play the number 2 cornerback position, as will all of these guys that we just talked about, who I think that would be a better route to go than the draft. But it'll be interesting to see how it's approached this offseason. For Arrowhead Pride and SB Nation, I'm BJ Kissel.